Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete and another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Good afternoon, Cougar Nation, coming to you live from Orlando, Florida. Side of the Big 12 spring business meetings. Mitch Harper here in the Sunshine State and back in Broadcast House, Matt Baiamonte. We're holding it down over the next 3 hours, talking BYU sports and recapping an eventful week at the Big 12 spring business meetings. And Matt, it's rainy skies here in Florida, rainy conditions. How's it out in Utah?
Oh, the weather's amazing today. Me and my wife, we hiked the Y. It's an annual tradition for us to kind of start the summer. Great weather. I think we're getting the rain tomorrow for the next couple of days. So you got the rain out there, then you come back to Utah, you're going to be getting the rain here.
Yeah, I guess I'm just bringing gloomy conditions, but there's a positive outlook and sunshine. All the vibes were good at the Big 12 spring business meetings. Particularly, they're optimistic about the college football playoff. And let's start things off with the starting lineup.
The starting lineup. A look at the stories making headlines right now. It's time for the starting lineup on Cougar Sports Saturday.
So if you've been busy this spring and getting ready for the summer, not following all the minutia of the college football playoff, totally understandable. I get it. It's a little bit deep in the weeds stuff, but it's a hot topic right now in college football, the college football playoff, and it's significant because it does have an impact on BYU football because the Cougars, riding high off after an 11-2 season a year ago, they feel like they're due to eventually, at some point in the near future, break through in that college football playoff. So the format of the future playoff in 2026 and beyond has been heavily discussed, not only at these Big 12 meetings, but also at the SEC meetings, and it was a talking point at the ACC meetings a few weeks ago here in Florida. And the format that the Big 12 wants, Matt, is 5 automatic qualifiers and 11 at-large bids, which would create a 16-team playoff, up 4 spots from the current 12-team playoff. What do you think of that?
I don't love it. I mean, I do like it more than the other model. So another floated proposal, just for fans trying to stay in the loop here on this, is 4 automatic bids for the SEC, 4 automatic bids for the Big 10, and then the Big 12 gets 2, the ACC gets 2, a group of 6 team gets 1, and there would be 3 other at-large bids. So that other one gives you more guaranteed access if you're the Big 12, but it also, I think, limits any potential because you'd be giving 8 guaranteed spots of the 16 to the SEC and the Big 10, and that would come with the financial windfall and yada, yada, yada. So out of the 2 proposals, I like the 5 plus 11. My problem with the 5 plus 11 is this idea that you're going to earn your way in, because that's just, there's no precedent for that right now with the way that the committee has handled these selections of the playoff preceding this potential expansion. I feel like this creates a door to which the SEC is going to get more than 4, or the Big 10 would get more than 4. In today's day and age, Mitch, where there is no rhyme or reason, you have no clue going into a football season what the criteria is going to be. Because every year it's changed. There's been an emphasis change every single year. One year it's strength of schedule. One year it's quality wins. We have no freaking clue what the metric is. What is the moving target? It's very unlike college basketball, where you've got this beautiful system, the net ranking, and you understand and quite frankly, look at what BYU basketball's done, which we'll get to later in the show. They're beefing up their schedule with a chance to increase their strength of schedule and provide more quality win opportunities. That metric doesn't work in college football currently because there is no metric. So I just, the 5-11 of the 2, sure, I guess it's better than 4-4, 2-2, 1-3, but I have great concern that the 5-11 opens the door for even more favoritism for the top 2 conferences in college football, and that, I don't like that at all, Mitch.
It was a hot topic this week here at the Big 12 meetings, and The Big 12 meetings are a chance for football coaches, men's and women's basketball coaches to meet, athletic directors, school presidents and chancellors, pretty much all the influential figures tied to athletics at a particular university. So Big 12 football coaches, they're in unison that they want 5+11. This was Arizona State head coach Kenny Dillingham showing his support for this format for the league.
Yeah, I think it was a great change. I mean, even though it would have negatively affected us last year, I mean, we lost 2 games going into it, so I think that would have been the right thing to do. I'm about, you should get what you've earned the right that season. And last season, maybe we didn't earn the right to be the 4th seed. Maybe we earned the right to be the 8th seed. I don't even know what we finished. 9th, 12th, whatever that was. I believe you earn your way to those seats. So I'm also in support of the 5-11 for that same thought process. Is every year's a new year. You never know who's going to be good in college football, especially with the volatility with the portal. So anything that creates an open platform for teams like our guys last year to prove that they do belong, I'm in support of.
The pros to a 5+11, I think, Matt, and it's to me, it gives you the hope of any year something special could happen. And if you're heavily invested, like Texas Tech is, Texas Tech's thrown down, maybe was one of the top 10 spenders in college football with their roster. Maybe you can climb the ladder quick and go reach the playoff if you're all in. But to your point, too, I'm also concerned about the selection committee dynamics because it was kind of fun out here in Orlando because I was talking to a lot of UCF reporters, and we were discussing how BYU was completely forgotten in the playoff and how everyone just threw to the side the BYU win over SMU. When we talk about non-conference strength of schedule, very few teams had a better win than BYU in the non-conference, winning on the road over a playoff team. And just because in week 2 we probably all thought it was a pair of 5 or 6 win teams, we all threw it to the side, or at least people on the outside that weren't following these teams. They just threw it to the side and discredited that, and BYU didn't get its respect until the Alamo Bowl, but it was too little too late. That's my issue with the committee, is that they're just not going to – they're going to fall victim to, this team looks good getting off the bus. They were forced –
Ole Miss, as an example.
Exactly. They were forced to – put SMU in over Alabama because SMU played a 13th game in the ACC title. It went down to the wire, while Alabama had more losses, 9-3, and they had one less game. If Alabama had played in the SEC championship, they would have totally got in over SMU. Alabama 2 years ago got in over an undefeated Florida State. So I am leery about that, and I just feel like it's moving the target to help the SEC and Big Ten more. If they tighten up things with the committee and actually set some guidelines of how they form the field, then I'm totally okay with it. But I am a little bit concerned because I could see the Big 12 being a league that only gets maybe one bid, even in a 16-team field, and that would not be good.
Absolutely, and that's the big concern. And you have to identify a standard curriculum or a standard operating procedure on how to evaluate this. And this is where college basketball has it nailed down to a T. Because really, at the end of the day, there's a great rating system in that sport. And sure, there's teams that maybe get snubbed, but really we're talking about, hey, there's a couple teams on the bubble. You're really splitting hairs, but at least you can look at a sheet of paper, Mitch, and see, well, so-and-so didn't get the 68th spot because they had 2 quad 1 wins, but they had 8 quad 1 losses, like a North Carolina, even though I think they got in. But, you can at least look at this and make some sense of what people are saying. So I think I can get behind a 5-11 if you can accompany that with, this is the standard. We are putting an emphasis on strength of schedule, quality wins, because that, to me, would encourage the right behavior in college football. Like, you're hearing stuff from the SEC media day or business meetings where they're talking about going to 9 games, 9-game conference schedule, and being a little lighter in the non-conference. How's that good for me? That's not good for me to never play anyone fun outside of the conference. I want to encourage nice non-conference matchups where that helps your strength of schedule and it gives you a chance for a quality win outside of conference play. I'm fine with expanding the playoff. I really am. I'm also fine with it staying at 12, too. I don't really necessarily see the need to go from 12 to 16. That could be an argument for another segment, Mitch, but I just feel like let's encourage the right things here. And if you don't have a clear depiction of what the metric is to get in to this expanded playoff, then what are we doing? We're just providing more access to the top two conferences.
The pro, though, over a 4-4-2-2-1 format, which would only give 2 automatic bids to the Big 12, is that you are clearly labeled going into every season as far inferior to the SEC and Big 10. And that's the one thing I do like about 5 automatic qualifiers. So that'd be 5 conference champions and 11 at-large bids. I think, with this college football playoff, it will just be interesting because we're just at a moment in the sport right now when you have, you go to these Big 12 meetings and there were some tensions, feelings of nervousness with the league personnel and school administrators because everything's a little bit on hold with, House versus NCAA, this settlement that'll usher in revenue sharing, and everyone's kind of just wondering how are they going to find ways to continue to pay out players, and because that's what all this comes to. All this expansion talk is about generating more money, which then goes back to these schools and conferences, and then they funnel it back to revenue sharing and obviously line their pockets too. But they're obviously getting money back to the athletes because in year one this year, it's going to be $20 million per school that you can pay up to, and the number is going to climb. And schools are looking to find more ways to get more money and really easy money because, honestly, you expand a playoff, as much as we sometimes complain and get frustrated about the systems, a lot of people still tune in. It doesn't compare to Super Bowl-type numbers, but you're still getting solid ratings, and you're going to make a lot of revenue from the likes of ESPN. So it was a fascinating topic at the college football playoff or the Big 12 Spring Business Meetings discussing the playoff. You'll hear from Kalani Sitake and BYU AD Brian Santiago their thoughts on the college football playoff and what they feel would be the right move. And, it's going to be interesting times because I do believe BYU's in a league where they could emerge as one of the top dogs in the sport. Let's take a break. We'll talk more about Big 12 Spring Business Meetings here from Orlando with more of a BYU angle coming up next here on Cougar Sports Saturday.
Welcome back in. It's Cougar Sports Saturday here on the final day of May. And then June will be here. It is a big recruiting month in June and camp season down at BYU. And then in July, football season is here. Mitch, camp will open and we will be off to the races. Can't believe we're already here. And did it feel like these spring meetings that you attended in Orlando, which you're still down in Orlando, when do you leave, tomorrow?
Yes, I do.
Nice. So does this gathering of so many key athletic personnel from every university in the conference, does it sort of feel like the official kickoff of the next athletic season?
It did a little bit, but I think everyone was kind of ready for a little bit of a summer. They'll have, as you noted, a busy June. July is kind of the precious time where people take breaks, but everyone will have to kind of reconvene for Big 12 football media day for a brief moment in Texas and then get back to their breaks. And then it's fall camp. And like you said, it's away we go. And it's another football season. 13 weeks from today, BYU plays Portland State here on KSL News Radio. And we'll talk a little bit later in the show about some of the kick times and schedule updates for football and basketball coming up later. But Big 12 meetings were very interesting, and for those people that maybe are confused or not confused, but unsure of what goes on at these meetings, it's a lot of presentations, it's a lot of insight, it's a lot of commentary, discussion about pressing issues for respective sports. a lot of collaboration between the coaches. They got some presentations from media executives. There were some top media personnel that were there. Joel Klatt from Fox was there. Bill Raftery, Onions! He was there, TNT Sports. And then even like deep in the weeds type guys. Like, remember Dave Brown, the guy that announced?
Of course.
Yes, he was the one that was from ESPN 2011 Independence. The new version of Dave Brown, Nick Dawson from ESPN, he was there. I saw Santiago talk with him and kind of say hi to him. So it was a lot of suits that maybe the fans don't know, but they're heavily involved with college athletics and very influential to how the sports run, and they run at a high level. But it was pretty cool to see Bill Raftery and Joel Klatt. Try to track down Joel Klatt for an interview, but he dipped as quick as he could, and it's like, all right, it's fine, Joel. I guess didn't want to chat. It's okay. But one thing that was, again, a pressing topic was the college football playoff. This was Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark pushing the 5-11 for the college football playoff.
Well, we're pushing 5-11. We have all week. I was also glad to hear that the SEC coaches supported, that format, which is critically important. We've had great collaboration with our colleagues. As all of you know, I'm on the management committee for the CFP. The four Power Four commissioners have been meeting separately, vetting out different models and opportunities. When we were recently in Charlotte, we formally presented the Big Ten and the SEC with options that, one, we had a preference for, but also if we did end up going with an AQ model, which is not our preference, how we felt about that. We will look forward to continue dialogue with them. I'm sure we'll connect next week, and then we'll be together in person in a couple of weeks. But I think there's real momentum for 5-11. Certainly the public is voting yes for it, which I think is critically important, and it's a very good sign. And yes, the Big Ten and the SEC are leading the discussions, but with leading those discussions, they have a great responsibility that goes with it to do what's right for college football and not to do anything that just benefits two conferences. And I have a lot of faith in the process, and I think we'll land in the right place.
It was good commentary right there from Brett Yormark because, as he pointed out, the Big Ten and SEC, they have a memorandum of understanding from the other conferences that they get to pick the format for the 2026 playoff and beyond, and that's why I think there's been this hot topic discussion about the playoff because it's this feeling of the Big Ten and SEC are just trying to pull away from everyone and maybe do their own thing, but still, like, you're gonna. This is not the NFL. You're gonna lose everyone else. Like, BYU fans are still gonna be BYU fans. They're not gonna just say, "Oh, I'm gonna start watching." Auburn because BYU's gone. No, that doesn't happen. Like, there's a different tie in college football than pro sports. So I like that commentary from Yormark that, yeah, they got the control, the Big Ten and SEC, but it's critical for them to also think of everyone else involved and make sure it's a national sport and not just two leagues.
The control really lies with Greg Sankey because Tony Petitti of the Big Ten commissioner,
he never speaks.
Well, he never speaks, but he's also the catalyst for the AQ model. He wants a guaranteed 4 Big Ten teams in because, quite frankly, this is my personal opinion here, the Big Ten is not equal with the SEC in football. I'm sorry. It's not. Like, there's going to be years where they don't get 4. There's going to be years where they maybe only get 2. But on the flip side, there's going to be years where the SEC could get 5, 6, maybe even 7. Really, at the end of the day, what does Greg Sankey want to do? Now, he did make a comment. You heard at the end of that commentary from Brett Yormark, hey, let's do what's good for college football. Greg Sankey was on the record down in Destin, Florida at the SEC meetings saying, don't tell me that, don't lecture me on what's good for college football. So it's sort of hard to get a read of where Greg Sankey's leading, but to me, he's the one you have to convince because Petitti wants the AQ. You have to have the AC, the SEC, I should say, Mitch, come in and strong arm and do what's quote unquote best for college football.
How great is it though, Matt, that BYU, these sort of meetings and discussion actually impacts BYU?
For sure.
5 years ago, they had no impact, and BYU was just kind of on its own island in independence, and that always hits home for me when I go to these meetings because it's so critical to have universities that back you up and are aligned with you and supportive of you because, this time of the year it was, you go to the WCC meetings and, all right, we're talking some hoops, we're talking some soccer, and that's great. But it's like you got to get football going at a high level. That's what that's the number one sport. That's the money driver. That's where all the dollars come in, and it's just fun to see this discussion. And BYU's in the mix of all of it. And one of the guys that was representing BYU here in Orlando at the Waldorf Astoria at Disney World was BYU AD Brian Santiago. You'll hear from him next, coming up here on Cougar Sports Saturday from Orlando, here on the legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio.
It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Big 12 Spring Business Meetings here with BYU Athletic Director Brian Santiago. Brian, I got to ask, what's been the response from your Big 12 AD peers here in Orlando as to you now settling in here, first time as the AD?
It's been, Mitch, it's nice to be with you. It's been super positive. It's nice to be welcomed into a room the way they've welcomed me. It started literally at the airport. Mark Harlan and I were on the same flight, struck up conversation on the flight, and then afterwards he just couldn't have been more gracious and kind and welcoming me, and we had a good conversation. But it's really been like that with all the ADs. I've had most of them reach out to me and welcome me. I've been super fortunate to work for one of the best guys in college sports, and Tom Holmoe, who the last couple of Big 12 AD meetings had me come in his place, mostly because he was out of town and on business for BYU, and I was able to come. So I had a previous encounter and was able to meet a lot of the ADs previously, but their warmth and gracious welcome to me has been really nice.
Did that help? Just kind of feels like hits the ground running, where you already have a little bit of experience, some rapport with these ADs. Not that that's maybe necessary for the job, but it's maybe got to help, I think.
Yeah, I think it's super important. We're super grateful to be partners with all the schools in the Big 12. I mentioned this in the press conference. Commissioner Yormark has been incredible with BYU. We're super grateful to be part of a conference that is so forward-thinking, that is so intent on being part of the future of college athletics, and to be partners with some of the great institutions in all of college sports and universities that represent so much good. It's a privilege, and we look at it and we're super excited and humbled to be in the room with these other great ADs, and then today to be in the room with some of the best coaches, men's basketball and women's basketball coaches in the country, and tomorrow we'll be with the football coaches, and it's a powerful room with a lot of the great coaches and men and women in college sports.
What's the most maybe forward-thinking idea or something that was presented in these meetings that you kind of were blown away by from today with the basketball meetings?
Well, I think if you start getting into specifics, there's a lot that was talked about today. The thing that we are most impressed with is Brett Yormark wants the Big 12 to be in the game, all the way in the game, starting at the top with football. What an incredible job the Big 12's done, and Brett has done bringing in some of the most powerful partners in sport, in all of our media partners. We just had presentations from the who's who of media partners in college sports, and to have all of those entities in the room and know that we're going to get that kind of exposure throughout the country and really throughout the world is really powerful, and we're just impressed with his ability, relationships to connect the Big 12 with the most powerful entities in sports.
in part of that media entity conversation, it's first year of a new media rights package for the Big 12, which means full revenue distribution for BYU. It's been kind of an escalator for the first couple of years. I think 18 million, then 19 million. What is that going to do to change? I don't know, change is the right word, but even elevate BYU athletics more with increased resources and revenue from media rights?
Yeah, the increased revenues and resources just allow you to, as I said earlier, to stay in the game, be in the game, and to chase greatness. You know, it's very important to us that we stay nationally relevant. We've shown that we're nationally relevant across the board. We want to stay nationally relevant. We want to chase greatness. But the important part, Mitch, is we want to do it the right way, and we want to do it the BYU way. We're not going to shy away from the fact of who we are and our unique mission at BYU, and we're going to do things the BYU way. And that's tying in not only our chasing greatness on the field, on the court, wherever it may be, but really developing young men and young women of faith. The faith part of BYU is embedded in us, and we actually think it's our strength. And we are unique, but we want to do it in a way where we're great partners. We want to elevate the conference along with these other great institutions, but we're going to do it the BYU way. And these added resources give us the opportunity to really be nationally relevant. And when we're nationally relevant and we do it the BYU way and we do it the right way, the world wants to know about our student athletes, and we can tell the story of our incredible student athletes and our incredible coaches.
Does the BYU way also now include paying top dollar for players and being right there? I know it's been pretty clear that not going to be the highest bidder. That's been the message.
Made clear.
But to match the highest bid, like, is BYU willing to do that if an athlete fits at BYU?
Mitch, it's a great question. We absolutely need to be competitive in the NIL space. And like you just said, we feel like we can attract the best student athletes, and we've shown that in the last year or two. Some of the best student athletes in the world without leading with money. We had AJ DeBanza and his family came to our campus 3 times. There was never a conversation about money.
So there was no discussion about NIL?
There was no discussion about it.
When did that?
They were coming because they were interested in the excellent coach. It's just like the same thing in football. They're interested in our coaches. They're interested in an environment where they can learn and grow, and for the holistic approach that we offer at BYU. But here was, the AJ example. Here's AJ coming with his family 3 times. His family came first to kind of see what BYU was all about. They had some relationships, they had some knowledge. They were going to Utah Prep Academy, so they were interested in BYU for what it is, what it stands for. And that's super important for us. We're not gonna lead with money. We're gonna lead and try to attract the very best student athletes that are interested in what BYU stands for, that are interested in our coaches that are gonna help prepare them for the next level. But they kind of get the whole thing at BYU. But let's not shy away from the fact we are and will be competitive in the NIL space and in the revenue share space. We need to be, but we're not going to lead with money. And like you said, people are talking about it. We're not going to be the highest bidder, but we are going to be competitive in that space and attract the very best student athletes for what BYU is and what it stands for.
So and maybe this is just a hypothetical, but if a recruit just comes up and asks one of these coaches, what's the dollar amount going to be? You guys are not interested in that type of player?
Yeah, and then that's one of the reasons in my mind immediately goes to Kalani Sitake. I've heard him talk to families. I've heard him say to people, if money is the only interest in BYU, it's probably not the place for you. Our coaches lead out the right way. That's why I'm so confident in our ability to stay nationally relevant and do it the BYU way, is because I've heard those questions asked to our coaches, and the response has been just that. If that's the only reason, if you're just looking for the highest bidder, if you're just looking for money, BYU may not be the place for you. But if you're looking for all these other things for us to help prepare you to take you to the next level, for us to give you an environment where you can learn and grow at one of the great academic institutions in the world, if you're looking for all the right reasons, all those things, this is the place for you. And on top of that, we're going to make sure you feel valued at BYU.
You mentioned something a couple weeks ago in your introduction. BYU was born to win.
Yeah.
It's an interesting comment because you do look at every BYU sport, despite all the maybe perceived disadvantages of the past, BYU has broke the system in ways, but kind of broke the barrier of like pushing the envelope to win games. What does winning look like in the Big 12 in a power conference under your leadership as an AD? Is it being the top winning program on the Big 12? Like, what does this look like, the winning for
Mitch,
you?
We were born to win, not just in sport. We were all born to win in life. We're all destined for greatness if we choose that path. And winning to me is a lot about everything that comes along with it. It would be ignorant to not look at the history of BYU. Some of the greatest athletes in the history of sport, some of the greatest teams in the history of sport, some of the greatest coaches, legendary coaches in the history of sport. It would be ignorant for us to come in and say, hey, we want to succeed in all these other things and not chase greatness on the field or on the court. We can have both. We can do it at a high level. We've proven that we can do it. We've captured the attention of not only our Cougar Nation, we've captured the attention of the country. BYU is on the map. We were on the map before. We're going to continue to be on the map. We've won national championships. We've chased greatness in every sport. And we can do it, but we got to do it the BYU way, and we got to be excellent. Now, the question was asked, and I talked about this, and it actually comes from one of our great church leaders, President Eyring, who came and spoke to our coaches, and the question was asked, what is the expectation? And he said, to be excellent. And the coach said, well, what does that mean? He said, to be nationally relevant. But then he said, but to do it the right way. Because if we do that, and we're nationally relevant, and we do it the right way, and part of that is part of our mission of our school, then the world wants to know who we are. If we're not relevant, if we're not winning, nobody cares who we are. But when we're winning and doing it in the way we do it at BYU, it creates some excitement and some enthusiasm for a lot of people. And I've had people associated with BYU and not associated with BYU that love BYU because of the excellence that through the years, the quarterbacks, they talk about Steve Young, they talk about Ty Detmer, they talk about, staying up late at night early on. I've seen coaches here at the Big 12 meetings that have walked up to me and started asking me about former BYU athletes, former BYU coaches, and talked about their interest in BYU. So winning at BYU and winning championships is very important. But to do it the right way and develop young men and women of faith, if we do both of those things, it means more, and that's what we're chasing.
Winning championships is a hot topic around the country, and these spring meetings, the college football playoff in particular. Yeah. As the AD of a power conference conference institution, what's your preferred college football playoff setup that you feel like would be best served for the sport in college football?
That's a great question. Commissioner Yormark shared today a sentiment that I think we all feel strongly about. That we want to see what's very best for the game happen. We want to see the very best opportunities. We want to see what's showcased on the field rewarded, so that everybody has an opportunity to win championships. And we're really looking forward tomorrow to meeting with the football coaches as athletic directors and football coaches, with Coach Yormark at the lead, and talk through what we feel like is very best. But Commissioner Yormark made a statement today, and he's passionate about it, what he feels like is best for college football and best for the game. Like, we hope that the right scenario plays out that's in the best interest of college football and the best interest of college sports. And we feel confident that when this all resolves itself and when people see the importance of what's best for the game happening, that people feel good about it. You want all the people that support it, all the stakeholders, to feel great about the college football playoff. And so we're really looking forward tomorrow to meeting with the football coaches and the ADs together and talking through what's very best and what we feel like is very best for the game.
What was it more centered around at-larges or automatic qualifiers?
Just the equal opportunity across the board. Certainly you want conference champions to have an opportunity to be in the game, and then you want everybody else that deserves to be in the game to be in the game. That's what we want to see.
Another big topic is House versus NCAA, and I remember a year ago at this time in Irving, we talked with Tom.
Yeah.
Days after the proposal settlement came to be, and now a year later it's still not finalized officially. Does BYU still plan to pay out revenue distribution through Utah state laws, or how is that going to work until that settlement goes through when July 1st rolls around?
Yeah, we're all anxious to see how the settlement plays. There are a lot of ramifications to it coming to fruition. We've all been waiting. April 7th was a date that we all had circled, and now here we are on May.
Yeah, it's May 28th.
May 28th.
Yeah.
The settlement still has not been settled. It has ramifications on a number of fronts, so we're all just anxiously awaiting for it. But certainly, we're going to align. We're going to align with the Big 12, with all of the rest of college sports based on what happens with this settlement. We'll certainly align with all the laws of the state of Utah. We just want to make sure that we don't jump the gun. We got to wait to see how it plays out. And once it actually is settled, we've had great leadership from the Big 12 leaders in preparing us for this. We've been preparing for it for an entire year. We're well situated to move forward as part of this new revenue share. We'll see how it plays out, but we feel like we're well situated. We've had great leadership from the Big 12. President Reese is excellent and has given us great direction, and so we're ready, and we'll pivot when we need to pivot.
Will BYU hit that $20.5 million mark?
In this first year, we'll see how it plays, but that's why they say up to 20.5. We want to be competitive, but we're also going to stay within the kind of the bounds that we have at BYU. But it's always nice. There are a lot of factors, Mitch, that go into it. You've got Alston. I don't want to get into the weeds, but there's so many factors that lead into that up to 20.5. Sure. But what I will tell you is we're going to be very competitive in the space, and we're going to make sure that the revenue sports and the rest of our sports can be competitive nationally and be relevant. And it starts with football and basketball, and we're going to be very competitive in that space.
Well, I wanted to also ask too, you bring up the Olympic sports, what role do they hold in BYU athletics as far as taking that to greater heights, I guess?
If people have paid attention, we have remarkable Olympic sports. National champions, some great coaches, nationally relevant teams across the board. And we want to make sure that we give every one of those programs ample opportunity to be nationally relevant. That's our vision, to across the board have all of our sports chasing national relevance, doing it the BYU way. So we're going to be competitive in that space of revenue share so that our Olympic sports can succeed. We have to allow resources to flow so that we can chase excellence. You can't do it without resources. And our intention is across the board with all of our sports to give them opportunity to stay nationally relevant, those that are, and those that want to become nationally relevant to chase national relevance. But make no mistake about it, this This revenue share and this settlement, the lion's share of the resources will go to football. That's the ship. Men's basketball and the rest of our Olympics. Men's basketball second, and the rest, because those are the two revenue sports. That's why it's called revenue share. And then the rest of our sports, we want to keep them in the game. We want them to stay relevant, and we want them to chase their dreams too.
Do you think this revenue sharing will potentially prevent booster fatigue, where boosters feel like they have to? Because it seems like nationally that's a talking point of boosters feeling like they've had to pay for these teams. BYU has really stepped up and has got a very passionate fan base and booster base. Do you think that revenue sharing can prevent boosters feeling like, okay, enough's enough, or feel like they still feel engaged?
Yeah, we're so grateful to have one of the great fan bases, and Cougar Nation has been wildly supportive of BYU athletics. This transition to revenue share continues a great partnership. We are going to need our very best and our very faithful fan base to continue to be a part of BYU athletics and partner with us. We need resources, but there are also other ways, and it also ties back to Cougar Nation, because you've got to have revenue streams that can sustain the revenue share. A lot of people don't understand that $20.5 million or up to $20.5 million, there are a lot of people that think the NCAA is providing that. This is money that we've got to come up with. And so to be sustainable, you've got to come up with new revenue streams. You've got to be efficient in the way you run your athletic department. And a part of all those revenue streams, one of the main ones, in addition to football and basketball ticket sales, is you've got to have great conference affiliation, which is a big part of us being in the Big 12, provides that. And then you've got to have your key stakeholders and your donors and your corporate sponsors coming to the table and continue to partnering with you in even greater ways. And we're super fortunate and blessed to have some of the greatest corporate sponsors and greatest donors in all of college sports that are passionate about BYU. But one of the reasons they're passionate about BYU is because of the mission. And tying those things together, we feel like we're in a position of strength, and we're going to be able to sustain it for years to come.
How much of your connection to those corporate sponsors and boosters do you feel maybe helped you get the AD job?
Well, I like to think that relationships across the board matter. Tom
brought that up a bit in his tenure, where he defines success by relationships.
Yeah, relationships matter. Relationships are everything, and I have deep, meaning relationships with our coaches, with key stakeholders, with corporate sponsors. Through all these years, I've been at BYU for 27 years. I've been in college athletics. I played collegiately. Relationships are everything. It's what we have to take away from this experience in college athletics. So through 27 years, some of my most valuable and valued relationships that I have in my life have come with relationships with student athletes and coaches, key stakeholders, sponsors, friends. And just to give some examples, Mitch, some of our former athletes that have become some of my dearest friends, their children are now competing for us. I've been here long enough to see those relationships matter, but as I've mentioned before, what matters even more than what's happening on the field and what's happening on the court, those relationships run super deep. When you go to a graduation banquet and you hear two of our golfers that just were tremendous at the national championships stand up and not talk about winning golf tournaments, not talk about going to the national championships, talking about the 2 years of their life when they couldn't get the golf ball to go where it was supposed to go, where at a lot of places they just would have sent them out, thrown them to the curb, to talk about the darkest times of their lives, not just in sport, but in their life, having two coaches like Bruce Brockbank and Todd Miller carry them literally and walk the path with them, and then see them come back to where They're talking about their experience and the relationship they have with their coach, and that was the most meaningful thing they're taking with them. To me, that's what college sports is all about. That's why I'm in it. That's why I've chosen to stay in this space. I've had opportunities to go, but I've chosen to stay in this space because of the relationships and because BYU burns deep for me. But being in it with these coaches, student athletes, I mean, I saw Coach Rose the other weekend. We had that Fathers and Sons camp. We have 1,200 fathers and sons come from all over the country.
28 years. You were there,
28
there at the
years.
beginning, I
I was
believe.
there at the beginning, and that's something that I hold dear to my heart. But to have all those fathers and sons there, the relationships that are there, but to spend the weekend and see Coach Rose there with all of his kids and grandkids, like what we've been through together, that's why you do this. The relationships are what matters, right? And we know the pressures that are out there. If you don't have those relationships, why are we in it? And to see them, and I said it, and I'll say it 100 times, you're going to hear me say it. The reason I'm in this business is to help other people chase their dreams. It's never been about me. I don't want it to be about me. I don't want people talking about me. I want them talking about our coaches, about these student athletes, and about what's the greatness that's happening in this great institution and the church that we represent. That's why we do this, is to try to help everybody else fly. That's the only reason I do this, is I want to see other people fly. Because when they fly, just like as a point guard, when you make a great pass and you see somebody else finish, that's what's always given me satisfaction. I just want to see other people fly.
And it's great insight. And just to follow up, you were pretty candid a couple weeks ago at your introduction about detractors. Like, you know, do you feel like that's kind of, it's been less detractors as you've settled in and people start to get to know you more in the spotlight role?
Listen, I've just always tried to do good and to do good for other people. And in life, you know, people talk a little bit about me being competitive. We are in college athletics. I think it takes some competitive juice to climb to the top of the mountain.
Seeing these people here at the Big 12 meetings, they're some of the top people in college sports. You've got to be pretty competitive, I'd say.
If you're not in the game, you're not competitive, it's super hard to compete at the highest level. And yeah, I am super competitive. And I just hope that people have a chance to get to know me. You know, people only see a certain side, but the people that know me through 27 years, the people that have walked the path with me, they know my heart, they know my soul. I just want to help people be great. And the relationships really matter to me. And I just hope people can see through time that, you know, we all go through a process of evolving and trying to be better. And I hope people can see that how deeply I care about our student athletes and our coaches. And the student athletes that I've heard from over the last 2 weeks, and the coaches that I've heard from, and the people around the country that I've heard from, has been super. It's been super humbling to just feel like people just pulling for me. And I just hope that those that don't know me as well will get a chance to get to know me, and then they'll realize, oh, he's in it. He's in it for all the right reasons. And I got a note today from someone that I'd competed against in the past that just said, hey, just getting to know you a little bit over the last week or two, I'm all the way in your corner. We believe in where you're taking this athletic department. We now see that you were right in the trenches with Tom Holmoe for a reason, and there's great trust there. And I hope people just get to know that there's great trust in BYU athletics and the mission and doing things in a way that's going to bring Cougar Nation together. I always say, like, I just want to be united with Cougar Nation as we try to chase greatness.
Great stuff. A few more moments, Brian. I appreciate all this time. It's great. You know, what's after you leave Big 12 spring business meetings here in Orlando? What will be on the agenda for you? Is it still how you rounding out the staff, deputy AD? what's on the to-do list for you?
What I'm really excited about moving forward, Mitch, is I'm excited to get back to campus and have some time to meet with all of our coaches, with all of the people that are in our athletic department, and to put together an executive team around me that is a team that's probably going to look a little different. I think the landscape of college athletics requires that we have the right people involved to spread some of the responsibilities. And we have some excellent people in BYU athletics. I tried to say this at the press conference. This wasn't Tom Holmoe and Brian Santiago building this greatness. We have an excellent team in BYU athletics. So I'm looking forward to going back, spending time with our coaches, with our athletic department personnel, putting together an executive team, a strategy team as we move forward that's going to help us maintain that excellence and to grow the excellence. And so that's the first item of business, make sure that I have time and that I'm able to spend one-on-one time with each of the key stakeholders in the athletic department.
Any goals for facilities that Tom and you had maybe visions of when you joined the Big 12 to carry out?
Yeah, listen, we've got to stay competitive. Again, we're not going to lead out with trying to keep up. What we're going to do is we're going to try to be competitive and stay in the game and make sure we provide our student athletes with world-class facilities so that they can continue to chase their dreams. You know, it's a big part of recruiting. When those student athletes come on campus, they're looking for the experience they're going to have, but they also want to know that they're going to have facilities and resources to help them chase their dreams. And we've got some, LaVell Edwards Stadium is one of the great venues in all of college sports. The Marriott Center, I don't know if it gets any better. We're adding on and pouring resources into baseball right now. We're building a new practice facility for baseball. We've got other facilities that are a little older that we're taking a look at. But yeah, we've got a great plan. We're partnering with the university and looking at some great plans into the future of upgrading some facilities. And we want our student athletes to have the very best experience possible. And part of that is making sure that they have facilities and resources to help them chase their dreams.
Last thing, Brian, and I know it's a sensitive topic, but I'd be remiss not to ask, just considering the nature of it last week with Jake Retzloff. What's the latest with Jake and his status with the school in regards to the civil lawsuit?
Mitch, it's a fair question. It's a private matter. The university made a statement, and Jake and his attorney have both released statements. And our responsibility is to care for our student athletes. Certainly, it's a tough situation. Be ignorant not to say it's a tough situation, but it's a private matter that's going to be handled privately. We just found out about it when others found out about it, and so we want to respect the privacy of Jake. We want to respect the privacy of the university. We want to respect the privacy of those involved as the matter gets worked out, and have full confidence that the right thing will happen moving forward.
Good stuff from BYU AD Brian Santiago with Mitch Harper down in Orlando. Let's take a break here. Hour number 2 coming up next. News, traffic, weather, of course, but much more to go here on Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete and a touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for 3. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
What is good, Cougar Nation? Welcome in to hour number 2 of Cougar Sports Saturday. Coming up a little later in the show, we'll have the head football coach, Kalani Sitake. Mitch sat down with him earlier in the week. And then if you missed our interview with Brian Santiago, the newest AD for BYU Athletics, We'll have a replay of that in the third hour, and we'll put it up on the podcast feed as well. Big 12 spring meetings, Mitch. There was a lot of great news and content that came out of that event, but that wasn't the only newsworthy thing from the previous week of BYU sports. The basketball team has been making news, specifically the schedule. It's coming together. We knew last year that KY, he didn't love that schedule. He didn't feel like his team was tested much in the non-conference before the start of Big 12 play. Well, it's going to be much different this year as a game got announced, a very exciting game, I must add. BYU against recent national championship UConn Huskies. They'll be meeting at TD Garden in Boston on November 15. Coach Young against Coach Hurley. What do you make of this non-conference matchup, Mitch?
I love it, man. It is such a cool matchup. And once again, Kevin Young, when he has an idea, he has a vision for something, it gets executed, and it blows everyone away. I just think that guy, when he puts his mind to something, it's gonna lead to some great results. And I just think this matchup's great because when you have a talented roster like you do with Richie Saunders, A.J. Dubonsa, Rob Wright, you want to play the best. And the great thing that we know about college basketball in a league like the Big 12, it's not going to hurt you to be playing a non-conference schedule that's tough. Think about Arizona last year. They go 7-5 in non-conference play, and they did a really nice job in Big 12 play. Couldn't beat BYU in Tucson. They got them in Provo, but Arizona still got a good seed. I think it was a 4-5 seed. I have to go back and check. It was a 4 seed. It was better than BYU, who got a 6. So there's proof there in this league that you play tough schedules, even if you lose them, you'll still be rewarded on the back end in the NCAA tournament because that's what it's all about, is playing a tough schedule.
Everything you said is right. It's not going to hurt you. It can only help you. It's fun for the fans. This is what I want. I want college football to do stuff like this, Mitch, where you can play a game like this in the non-conference schedule, and it's celebrated as a fun matchup. It's not do or die. You don't know if this is going to be the difference between getting left out. It's just, let's get these great matchups, and let's have a lot of fun. And then you have an opportunity to conference play to kind of solidify yourselves. And BYU basketball has done a fantastic job. We already knew about the opener against Villanova down in Vegas. They have that fun MTE in Orlando. And then there's also rumblings. Has it been? Is it official with Wisconsin? I don't remember seeing anything.
There's a report with John Rothstein, and I asked Kevin Young point blank if that game was official, and he's like, I'm not sure on crossing
Tyson,
T's.
where are you?
Crossing T's, dotting I's, And I just, I had to ask because it was fresh off that. But, yeah, that's been reported for November 21st, the Wisconsin game at the Delta Center. So if all these games come through, you're talking about a stretch of November 15th against UConn in Boston, and then you got November 21st, Wisconsin at the Delta Center on a Friday night, and then the following week, officially announced in the ESPN Events Invitational, Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, you're going to play, either Georgetown, Miami, or Dayton, and then you'll play either the winner or the loser in the other side of that 4-team bracket on Black Friday. So, this is the type of schedule you want, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm also excited, too, that, Dubonsa gets to have kind of a little bit of a homecoming game. Brockton, Massachusetts native. He goes back to his part of the country and gets to play for the hometown fans. You got to think the national Northeast media outlets will converge on that setting. And, we saw last year when BYU went to Providence, a lot of NBA personnel that's compact in the Northeast with all those NBA franchises up there. I'm sure they're going to be inside TD Garden to watch Dubonsa, Rob Wright. I'll admit, too, just as a side tangent, Rob Wright, I feel like we're maybe sleeping a little bit on his potential as an NBA prospect. You look at some way too early 2026 NBA drafts and mock drafts, and, some have him as a top 20 pick. And so BYU's an NBA team, and Richie Saunders, I think, is an NBA guy too. So that's going to be a dynamite game against a brand like UConn that maybe in the last 25 years, Matt, is the best in college basketball. They've won 6 titles since 1999. They've been incredible 2 out of the last 3. And this past year, they lose in the second round to the eventual national champion in Florida and took Florida, basically a full 40 minutes. So that's going to be a great test. And I couldn't believe, too, BYU and UConn have never played in the regular season in basketball. They played in the NCAA tournament in 2003, but that's it. They've never played in the regular season. So cool to see BYU basketball going up against a brand like UConn in a big setting at the TD Garden. I'm just bummed, Matt, that it's the same day as a BYU football game.
Yeah, I was just going to say, put your fan hat on, Mitch. Home against TCU.
Man.
This is the angle you have to potentially look at from a fan's perspective. Mid-November, are you in the thick of a Big 12 championship race hosting TCU? Do you go to that game, or do you bust it out to the East Coast for the tail end of fall, maybe do some sightseeing in Boston, and then go to the TD Garden to watch BYU versus UConn? What would you do? Like, if you and your boys were planning that weekend on something to do athletic-wise, what would you pick?
I think if I had no work commitments, I would probably go BYU versus UConn. Because that's because I think that's once-in-a-lifetime type stuff.
Yep.
You're probably never going to see BYU in the Garden again. Like I know it's not the Boston Garden of old, but like
it's still the Garden.
But it's still the Garden. Like it's still the Boston Celtics. Hopefully that parquet floor is still on. Like they got I wanted to see that Celtics parquet floor for a BYU game. How awesome would that be? I'm sure it'll be a different court, I would imagine, but still, that's just such a cool setting. But at the same time, I will say it's tough because football, I think BYU is going to be good, and I think TCU is going to be really good this year. I feel like TCU is going to be a good team. They were a quiet 9-win team this past year, so it's tough. I just feel like the whole novelty of BYU, UConn, TD Garden, that's, again, once in a lifetime. But then it becomes even trickier, Matt, because a couple weeks later, BYU reportedly will play Clemson inside the Madison Square Garden, another historic venue. So maybe you say, okay, I'm not going to see the Garden, but in a couple weeks, I'll see the football game on November 15th, and then December 9th, I'll go see BYU play in the Mecca, the Madison Square Garden. What a schedule. I mean, this thing is dynamite. I cannot wait for BYU hoops this year. It's going to be so much fun.
I want to hear from the fans. Text us at 57500. Which Garden would you pick if you could only choose one? BYU versus UConn in the Boston Garden or BYU Clemson? Not quite as sexy as a matchup, but Clemson is good. Go ahead.
They got your guy too. The
Carter
guys
Welling.
Carter Welling.
Yes.
I know you were banging the drum for Carter Welling back during the season. I remember last February. You're like, Mitch, it'd be great if BYU could get this guy. And I'm thinking, well, can he really be on Kevin Young's roster? And well, dang, he was a good player. I mean, he was a
great player for Utah Valley last year. And he's a local kid from Draper.
And Clemson also has Jake Wallin, former BYU signee and Utah player. So there's a lot of LDS ties, Utah ties on that Clemson team. It's a juicy matchup and should be maybe 2 top 25 teams, I would think. Clemson's been really good the past couple of years, so it's just a great schedule, and I can't wait. I will say we just played our interview with Brian Santiago from Big 12 meetings. The one thing I missed, Matt, and I regret, just following up with him, because I know there were some fans chattering about the North Carolina game that he announced, supposedly. Again, I wasn't there at Fathers and Sons, so I just saw the social media chatter, but supposedly he said at Fathers and Sons camp that BYU was going to play North Carolina. I wanted to follow up on some of the details, but I mean, I went 30 minutes with the man. I had to let him go and get to his meetings and go. So he was very kind with his time. I could have went another dang hour talking BYU sports with him, but that was one thing I missed because there have been reports about BYU and North Carolina supposedly playing in an exhibition. But it's dynamite, man. It's going to be so much fun. And I just think Cougar fans feel like they're maybe living in a dream with how BYU basketball is just in the epicenter of national college basketball conversation in May. It's pretty awesome to see.
While we're on the note of Brian Santiago, can I just say he has really won me over through interviews, not just with you. I thought you had a great interview, but I think he's been really candid. He has not ducked any questions that's been asked his way. I feel like he has done a outstanding job at just being transparent about what he wants to do, what he thinks is important. I liked your question about Jake, and I liked his answer too, where he just said it's a fair question, and we're going to keep it private for now. Like I just think Brian has done a A+ job. I know he's barely been on the job, and there's going to be a lot of difficult things he has to navigate, but I really like how open he has been with just the fans, with the media. I think he's doing a really nice job so far, Mitch.
I think it's a fair point, and I think that, he is putting his own touch on, his identity of the athletic department and his style. I think everyone just kind of thought it's going to be an extension of Tom Holmoe, and maybe it will be. I mean, it's only 2 weeks in, but it's already been a jam-packed 2 weeks already with everything that's been going on. I think, though, that he's got the right mindset, and I bring that up because you look around these Big 12 meetings, and you just see walking through a hallway at the Waldorf Astoria, Mike Gundy. You see Scott Drew, who won a national title. You see Bill Self, Kelvin Sampson, big time coaches, administrators that have been in their chairs for long periods of time. Some famous ADs that are maybe in the college media space that people know them. You've got to be super competitive, and Brian Santiago is wired to be competitive. Now, we got to see BYU sports elevate itself, and basketball clearly is trending upwards. I think football is trending upwards. But can they, break through and win big? Because that's always been a question for many of the sports at BYU. Olympic sports, too, where women's soccer can get to the final game, but they can't win it.
Yep.
Penalty
Men's
kicks.
volleyball.
Men's volleyball for a stretch. They'd always lose to, like, Ohio State or Hawaii. Can they break through and win it all? The Big 12 needs that more than ever. I was talking to a Big 12 staffer who just kind of supports staff, behind-the-scenes person with the Big 12. And he just said, man, we love having the Salt Lake, market connected to the Big 12 because we just know, that market cares about it. And BYU is a big piece of that. And, of course, BYU's, worldwide following. It's a big deal. And I just think Brian Santiago understands, the significance of BYU sports. And I think it was critical that, President Reese, it sounded quirky at the time where we're going to go find someone that bleeds blue because does that matter for ADs? But at BYU, it does. You have to understand what it means to be at BYU, understand the nuance of how BYU does things. And so far, I think he's doing a really good job. And, time will tell how it all plays out. But for right now, I think Brian Santiago is doing a strong job. And look, he was connected to Kevin Young, bringing him to BYU. That alone is proof that this guy's competitive, and when he sets his sights on something, BYU can be in the mix because Kevin Young is as good as they get in college basketball.
Let's take a break, Mitch. On the other side, there's some more interesting tidbits and notes in the world of Big 12 men's hoops, which we'll cover right after this.
Welcome back into Cougar Sports Saturday, live from Orlando. KSL News Time, 1:23 p.m. Mitch Harper, Matt Baiamonte with you. The Big 12 spring business meetings wrapped up, and as we noted earlier, college football playoffs a hot topic in college sports. But oddly enough, Matt, I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Money, but the NCAA tournament is under the microscope as well for expansion. The NCAA president, Charlie Baker, he was actually at the spring meetings, at the Big 12 meetings, which was kind of cool to see the guy that leads the entire NCAA had tossed some questions his way. And he discussed why the NCAA wants to expand to either 72 or 76 teams from our precious basketball tournament.
We've been talking about 72 and 76. Those have been the numbers the basketball committee's talked about. It would obviously be one or the other. It won't be more.
What would be the benefits to adding?
Well, so here's the way I think about it, and you should ask others and see what they think. But, you know, the AQs really matter, right, in men's and women's basketball. And they've created some wonderful stories and some amazing games and incredible narratives over the years. And so that means straight out of the gate, you got 34 teams that are going to be in the tournament automatically. No matter where they were ranked during the regular season, they're going to be there come March. And I think that means at the end of the day, if you have a tournament that's got 64 or 68 teams in it, you're going to have a bunch of teams that are probably among what most people would consider to be the best 68 or 70 teams in the country that aren't going to make the tournament, period. Because you're going to have a whole bunch of people who win their conference tournaments who aren't in that group. And so the point behind going from 68 to 72 or 76 is to basically give some of those schools that probably were among the 72, 76, 68, 64 best teams in the country a way into the tournament. So the way I think about it is it's a way to get some of the teams into the tournament who would, as at-large teams, would get in. But given the fact that we really believe in the AQ process and the opportunities that creates for everybody to have a stake in the tournaments on the men's and women's side, we definitely leave some teams out that probably belong there. And it's a way to get them in.
You buying that, Matt?
No, but no, I'm not. That's a nice thing to say. If the first 4 was the first 8 or the first 16, I guess it wouldn't be the first 16, but the first 12, that's a lot more money. Ultimately, I just don't feel like when you're cutting teeth between teams 67, 68, 69, 70, are there really teams that deserve to be there that didn't get in? I don't buy that at all. Do you?
I don't. I mean, I feel like our show, we're probably in the 99 percentile of people that watch college sports. I can't remember who Team 69 was this past year. I don't know. It's not like I remember the St. Louis.
Was it
story.
Iowa?
I don't even know, to be honest. But I just feel like, but again, it ties back to money because, and the thing is do the TV networks, which is, TNT Sports, CBS, Turner, do they want to actually pay more for games that really, like, yeah, sure, we'll tune in, but I still feel like even with the first 4, everyone still looks at the beginning of the tournament as that Thursday. No one points to that Tuesday night being the start of the tournament. It's always Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. That's when the tournament begins. And that's how it will always be unless they do a really radical shakeup of the tournament. I mean, 72, 76, it seems small right now, but at what point do they get to 90-something.
No way. Like, that sounds ridiculous.
I hope they don't.
That.
I would, too. I remember talking to Mark Pope about a tournament expansion a few years ago. I think it was the last year of the WCC because that was a very tough year to find storylines. Like, okay, they're 5th place in the WCC. The Big 12's next year. Everyone wants to talk about the Big 12. Let's talk about some NCAA tournament expansion. And I remember Mark Pope was like, yeah, he's like, every time the tournament expands, the tournament just gets better. And there might be some truth to that, but I think at the same time, 68 is perfect because the bracket fits on one sheet, and I know people probably don't print off brackets anymore, and I don't even. But, still, that bracket is perfect. Why mess with perfection? That tournament is perfect as is because the notion that the small guy is going to get those additional bids is wrong. For BYU and the Big 12, it's probably great because if there is ever a year for BYU where if they're mediocre, they're probably still going to get in as team 71, 72. It's not going to be the little guy. It's going to be Big 12, SEC, Big 10, ACC, gobbling up the bids, and maybe once every couple years they'll have some Missouri Valley or Mountain West team or A-10 team that gets in. It's like, okay, see, this is working. It's like, no, it's just going to be the power conferences. Why bother with getting Team 15 from the SEC into the field? We don't need that in our lives.
I thought it was interesting that Bill Self supported the NCAA tournament expansion. Here's his commentary, the Kansas coach.
There was a little bit that was brought forth, and the consensus among the coaches was, even though it was very little, was we'd be in favor of that. And of course I don't know what the number will go to, but I do know that there's discussions about that.
Of course he's in favor of it, Mitch. If you're needing to get to the tournament to save your job and there's 8 extra spots, let's go.
Who would have thought that Kansas would be the program that is fresh off a first-round exit, and BYU is one of the big dogs in Big 12 basketball right now. We got to take a break, though. Top 5 next here on Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete and another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for 3. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Welcome back in. It's Cougar Sports Saturday. Halfway through the final show of May. And you don't want to go anywhere because Kalani Sitake is joining us shortly in about 30 minutes. And then Brian Santiago, if you missed that conversation between him and Mitch, we'll replay that in hour number 3. But right now, it's something we do every single week. We would never miss this segment.
The Cougar Sports Saturday Top 5. Top 5. Mitch and Matt clash in a weekly battle of BYU sports knowledge. Here's the Top 5.
It's the Top 5. We love this show, and we love this segment where our producer, Nate Slack, he'll come up with a list of some kind. Could be factual, could be preferential, could be opinion. Of course, it centers around BYU and myself, Matt Baiamonte, and Mitch Harper, live from Orlando. We will close our screens. We will put our phones to the side, and we will use only our brains to compete in a battle of wits. You ready to go, Mitch?
I'm ready. I got the laptop closed. I am ready to get off this losing streak and get a win and get back on track. Let's go.
All right. Let's bring in the maestro, the magician, the king, the prognosticator.
Yeah, let's keep on going. This is good. I like this. What else, Matt?
I ran out of words. I'm sorry. I need to learn more words. My vocabulary is not as strong as it needs to be. But what do we have on tap today, Nate?
Yes, you know what? This is one you guys could actually keep your computers open for if you wanted to, because this is coming off the dome. This is all opinion-based. And it's a big one because today is a big one for Matt, actually.
Oh, jeez. I hate the pressure.
This is so Mitch leads the all-time series since I took over as producer. He leads 33-32. And this would be the first time that Matt has tied it since it was 0-0. Matt has never led. He has never tied. He's always trailed Mitch. So this is your week, Matt, to potentially tie it with Mitch.
The pressure. Oh, the pressure.
So we're going to be sticking on the gridiron this week. We're only 13 weeks away from BYU football. I think we're all excited about it. And so I thought it would be a good week to rank my top 5 favorite season openers for BYU football since the year 2000.
Okay.
So
Let's
nice
go.
and simple. You got to rank them in the right order, though. So if you say one game is number 1, but it's actually number 2, you get buzzard. You've got to give the opponent and the year.
You have to give the opponent and the year.
So those two things. We're starting out with Matt.
You're starting out with me, huh? Just the way I like it. I'm going to go with knowing that this is an opinion list. I'm going to go with 2022 down in the state that Mitch is currently doing the show from, South Florida 2022.
We're at number 1.
Oh, I have to pick the list, the spots?
You got to pick the spot.
Number 5 then. Still a buzzer? Okay.
Still a buzzer.
Okay.
Let's go with. So I'm thinking about this here since it's Nate Slack's list.
Right. That's a key piece to this list.
I'm trying to think here. I'm going to go with 2011 Ole Miss, number 3.
Nice.
Oh, wow. That
was fantastic.
impressive.
That was great. That's a game I wish I'd gone to. We hadn't been making very many visiting game trips when I was that age, but Kyle Van Noy's sack and fumble and touchdown in the final few minutes. I think that was a game where Ross Oppo and Jake Heaps had a touchdown pass as well. But that'll always be a fun game. I mean, obviously a big win in the SEC country. Those don't come around very often.
It is one of my favorite trips I've ever experienced, going to BYU football games. There are still Ole Miss fans that I interact with on social media, and they were college students at the time, and now they've gone on to be, some of them, politicians in Tennessee, Mississippi area, that Memphis area. It's crazy, and that's been 14 years now. That was an epic experience. I loved going to the Grove, and I'm so bummed that home and home series went off the books, because I thought that would have been epic to have Ole Miss come to Provo and experience the Wasatch Front and LES. But yeah, that game was not pretty. I remember too what was funny going into that game. Remember, that was the fall camp where Brandon Doman was taking over as the offensive coordinator. And I don't know about you, Matt. I know you were very close to that team, covering it with Greg. But I remember there was just so much hype about that offense with Jake Heaps, Brandon Doman's calling the plays. It's like BYU's getting back to its old ways. And then, they don't score really ever in this game. And, whoa, they've only got 7 points in the fourth quarter, and it took KVN to pull off some heroics. But it worked out and for that day, but it was signs of, this is not going to be smooth sailing like we thought.
And the pain was never more evident than later in that season at Texas, when if the offense could just get a first down in the second half, you win that football game. So, yeah, that offense was a giant flop, no doubt about it.
Sticking with Mitch. You got the steal, so sticking with Mitch.
Okay. How about, let's go with 2016 Arizona, number 2.
Number 1, 2009, BYU and Oklahoma.
Yeah, that was a gimme.
Why did it take so long?
I don't know. That's a great question. That's another game I wish we'd gone to. We ended up going to the Tulane game the next week in New Orleans.
Oh, you did? Wow.
Yeah, so that was a lot cheaper. I think because flights into Dallas were pretty expensive that weekend.
So you just stayed.
Day.
You went to Dallas and Dallas to New Orleans?
No, we didn't go to that Oklahoma game.
Oh,
at all.
you didn't? That's one of
my
my great regrets too. So, here's a story for you. I'm on a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints mission. I'm living in France. Bless my dad. He mails me the Sports Illustrated college football season preview, right? And the first game played that I got home from my mission from was BYU and Oklahoma. And I'm like, of course I have to go to this game, right? And I talked myself out of it, but that was my first experience back watching college football, was BYU Oklahoma, and I should have went. That's my great regret, is not going to that game, because that was the first game ever played at Jerry World, and BYU wins that game in dramatic fashion, and I don't go. Did you go to that, Mitch?
I did not. So all three of us, we dropped the ball not going to that game. I'm curious, though, Matt, your Sports Illustrated cover, which quarterback and center was it?
Oh man, I
was it Oregon and Marcus Mariota, or was it like Jevin Sneed and Ole Miss?
It was. I think it was Mariota and Oregon. Yes.
I remember that cover vividly.
I read every letter in that cover, as you can imagine.
That's awesome.
Being on a mission at least 10 times. It was like, that was like pressure. It was like the almanac from Back to the Future 2.
Yes.
It was like, don't ever take this from me.
That's awesome.
All right, so number 1 is off the board, Oklahoma 2009. Number 3 is off the board, Ole Miss 2011. And we're sticking with Matt.
And number 2 is coming off the board right here, because number 2 is 2015 BYU and Nebraska.
Nice. All-timer. And that was a fun game, too, because that was my first game back from my mission. And I was in the same MTC district as Tanner Mangum. And so
wow,
when we were in the MTC, we were in the Mexico MTC. And so we are during some language study for Spanish. BYU's playing Texas. And so we kind of look at each other like, oh, we got to see if we can find the score. And so we do some sleuthing. We go to like LDS.org. We type in BYU, and then we.
Oh, is this
we
the
can hyperlink.
beatdown year?
That's the beatdown
Taysom
year.
Hurdle year.
And so we finally end up getting to ESPN, which was blocked. But we
course.
could access it because we were clicking on different hyperlinks from church websites. And so we find it, and on the front page of ESPN, it says BYU, Texas, in a lightning delay. And so we never actually knew what the score was until the very next day.
Wow.
But Tanner Mangum, that's my little Tanner Mangum story. 2015 Nebraska, awesome game. So fun. It was obviously sad with Taysom, and I think a lot of fans had mixed emotions after the game was over. But that was an all-timer.
All right, where do we go next?
Going with Mitch. Got to stay alive.
I do. Let's go with, I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to say Arizona 2016. Let's go 5.
Number 4. I feel okay about this guess. I just wonder if my opinion is this is hard about these opinion lists. Sometimes you want to sprinkle your own in here, but I'm going to say number 4. I'm going to borrow from Mitch, Arizona, but I'm going to say 2021 in Las Vegas.
What?
Oh, baby!
Are you kidding me?
That was a huge game. I don't disagree with that one at all. Do you remember how lit Allegiant Stadium was? Inject that into my veins. Because remember, the year before, no one could go. So that was like the first game back. That was the game was meh.
2016 was bigger.
2016 was probably more fun of a football game, but it was all the buildup.
It was coming out of COVID.
Thank you. Yes,
You're
I agree
out of your
with that.
house. You're in the stadium. They're playing All of the Lights by Kanye West as the team
They're
runs
dressed in
onto the field.
tuxedos. Yes. I'm
Okay,
with you.
And the
that's
fireworks
a
inside
good
the
point.
Stadium. It was electric.
It
Mitch.
was electric.
Unbelievable. It chalked up another loss. I can't believe I didn't think Oklahoma, didn't think Nebraska.
It took me a minute too, because I'm like, it wasn't for a few minutes where I'm like, oh wow, like
I overthought this because I was thinking, okay, Nate has some close ties to Arizona. I was going deep in the weeds instead of just spinning the hits. Finds this guy! Or whatever they say in Provo. Down to the goal line! Oh!
That's such a great goal. Into the wind, down to the goal line, and caught! Mitch Matthews!
That's a very good Sean McDonough. Gosh, I lost again, so dang it.
Number 5, though. We got to get number 5.
Okay, so we got Oklahoma 2009, 2015 Nebraska, number 3 Ole Miss 2011, number 4 Arizona 2021, and number 5. Now, for the listeners out there, Nate, I'm not trying to put you on notice, but what is your age, just to let our listeners know? Because
I am 29 years old.
Okay, so just and this is Nate's opinion, so because there's been some classics, out there.
1984.
And I'm just gonna. So we're basing the list, and I should have asked this maybe before, but I kind of felt this would be the way. But this is a list of games, season openers in your lifetime, correct?
Yeah. So this is since 2000.
Okay,
so you're obviously leaving out Miami.
So you're leaving.
And
Well,
Pitt.
Miami was week 2.
Oh, you're right. So Pitt,
that was
1984
after.
Pitt.
Yeah, 1984
Pitt's
Pitt. You got 1985
A&M is
Boston
out.
College. You got 96 A&M. You've got 97. Well, 97 was Washington was bad. I'm trying to think of some other
what
ones.
What was the 2000? Was this Notre Dame an opener? No, it wasn't. Right.
2004 Notre Dame was good. Oh, let's go
Florida
2000.
State.
Let's go 2004 Notre Dame. Let's say that one. 2004.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Number
you
5. Yeah, and that was fun.
That was the
So-
Austin Collie breakout, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that
it
was his
was.
freshman game, and Todd Watkins had a big catch. And I remember being a 16-year-old kid in the west sideline, and I'm sitting right in front of Rondo Felberg, and Todd Watkins had that epic catch. And it was like to open the game, and it's like, yes, all the fall camp hype materialized. Like, this is real. Todd Watkins is the man. And I remember Rondo saying, like, I think he looked at his Cougar Illustrated program, was like, who's that number one? And I turned over my right shoulder. I said, Rondo. That's Todd Watkins. He's going to be the man. I'm telling you, Rondo. I'm like, he has no idea who I am. And I said, Rondo, it's Todd Watkins from Grossmont College. He is going to be incredible. Just remember that. So that's pretty fun. That's awesome. That was a fun game. And think about this, too. I think it was in back-to-back home games. It was Notre Dame and then USC on BYU's homestand in 2004, and pretty cool stuff when you think about that. Like BYU was hosting some big hitters then.
That 2004 year, that USC game you just brought up was the first time I ever went to a BYU game by myself without my dad. Me and a buddy went. We tailgated up by the MTC at the BYU Auxiliary Maintenance parking lot, which is sort of a secret, or at least it used to be a secret parking spot. And we tailgated and we, ate sandwiches and threw the football around. And really my lasting memory of that game is being in the south end zone. Do you remember this play where I can't remember if it was a screen or a pitch to Reggie?
Yes.
He's running in front of the west sideline and then cuts all the way across the field to the east sideline and then scores in the corner. And I'm like, we're not on the same caliber as USC.
Well, I think if we're talking about the same play, I think it was the second quarter.
Yes.
And I think it was, and I remember BYU was hanging.
Right.
It was only 10-7, and there was about 3.5 minutes to go, and then Reggie Bush popped that off, and it was all she wrote, and it was game over. It might have been 7-3. I can't remember what the exact score was because if I'm not mistaken, I think they went up 21-3 at the half, and it was over from there. But yeah, that was incredible seeing Reggie Bush in person in Provo. I always like watching those Reggie Bush highlights, and you can see based on the lighting, like, oh, that's his game in LES because there was a distinct lighting vibe at BYU games back in those 2000s. But to recap Nate's list, best season openers, Nate, you've got the floor since it was your list. Recap the top 5 for everyone.
So I had number 1. We'll start from 5. So number 5, I had Notre Dame 2004. Number 4, Arizona from 2021. Number 3, Ole Miss from 2011. Number 2, Nebraska 2015. And the number 1, Oklahoma in 2009.
I don't think this year's opener is going to make this list, regardless of the outcome.
I don't think they are anymore because even last year they opened up against Southern Illinois. Year before that was Sam Houston.
How dare you forget the Salukis like that?
They had that amazing quarterback. He was so good. He was good,
You
but
didn't
it's like
enjoy Sam Houston the year before?
No. No, I did not.
That's a good point, Nate, because you go Portland State this year. Next year it's probably Utah Tech. The year after that it's Weber State. And then 2028 maybe you've got, I think there might be an August State there, but yeah, you're not building up to some marquee showdown in week 1 anymore for BYU games, and I kind of miss that a little bit because that was always just that fun, what's it going to look like, in game 1. It's nice to kind of, sort itself out against an FCS team and just see the on-field product, but still it's just like there was always some fun aspect to playing a team that was a power conference foe right out of the chute, and you just got to be dialed in completely to get things going. But, hey, BYU football, regardless, whether it's Portland State, Notre Dame, whoever it is, we're fired up for it. It's 13 weeks away till BYU kicks it off against the Portland State Vikings on August 30th. And we'll talk some more BYU football next in Cougar Tales right here on Cougar Sports Saturday.
Mitch, I can't believe you're sleeping on that 2021 Arizona opener.
It was awesome. I was just trying to fight for the 2016 because it was the first game of Kalani Sitake, Ty Detmer, Taysom Hill's return.
Weren't you disappointed for the majority of that game, though?
Oh,
It
sure.
was like Taysom and Jamal's back, and then where's the points?
Absolutely.
Where's the production?
I agree. But I was also disappointed, I'll admit, in the 2021 game because I thought they had a comfortable lead, and then they let a mediocre Arizona team get back into it, make it a little more uneasy than I would have liked. But I think the COVID piece, I was underestimating that because that was big. I guess I kind of get caught up in my little echo chamber sometimes because in 2020, I was just kind of, in many respects, it wasn't business as usual, but it was kind of in my world because I was fortunate enough to go to those games. But for Cougar fans, they could go a whole year without going to a game. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I get it now, and that was big. And also, I think I would add too, that was the weekend. Now that I think about it, where the Big 12 invite was coming down. And,
yes,
it
after
all
that
came out
and before the Utah game. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, we were at the Fan Fest that night before, and it was just fans were just hyped, and they were just so excited, and they couldn't believe that BYU was going to the Big 12, and it was going to be, life was kind of getting back to order.
Young University, we would like to extend.
I saw it. That's a funny bit. I'm here in Orlando. I saw President Dr. Lawrence Skuvenik, the Texas Tech president, here at the Big 12 meetings. He has
I hear this cadence.
I hear this voice. I'm talking to some other reporters that were here at the meetings, and then I hear this voice. Excuse me, where's the bathroom? And I instantly thought, Brigham Young University. I wanted to almost ask him and say, can I get a clean recording of you saying that, because your Zoom recording was very distorted and it kind of was choppy and the streaming wasn't great. Can you just give me a clean cut of Brigham Young University to the Big 12?
Spying on that, you're some national reporter in the corner. There's this reporter with Texas ex-president Brigham Young University. We like to formally invite you to the Big 12 conference.
Andrea Adelson from ESPN.com is just going, what is that guy from Salt Lake doing? It's weird enough that he's already down here 2,000 miles, acting like BYU's the big dog around here. Come on.
Oh, my gosh. That's so funny. That's great. All right. With that being said, let's get to a few Cougar tales, Mitch. Up first, College Football 26. The video game, the trailer is out in the world. What did you make of the dynamic lighting, the drone shows? What did you make of that trailer?
It's basically a College Football 25 reskin, and I'm okay with it. Let's go. I'm so hyped for this game again. I put in almost 200 hours into the College Football 25, and I've done it pretty much all that I can with that game. I've done Ultimate Team, Dynasty. Love the game. There's some quirks you want to fix, but I think 26 seems like all the reports would say that this game's going to be good. I love the dynamic lighting piece because I hated playing a 4 o'clock game or a 5 o'clock game, and it's still just daylight. I need that dynamic, sunset, yes. And it's dark. I need that in the fourth quarter. Yep. This is going to be fantastic, man.
And coaches are in the games, too. And I think this is interesting. Just reading the tea leaves here, there's over 300 coaches in the game. There's not 300 teams in the game, so I think that means coordinators as well.
That is true. Iowa State's coordinators, they confirm they're in the game. I should have. How funny would that have been at the meetings? Hey, Kalani, is Jay Hill and A-Rod, are they in the game? Are they going to be in the booth? Or are they at field level? Mitch, you're already asking me these questions. Who's on the booth? Who's at field level? This isn't even August yet.
That's great. One more thing: the College Football Hall of Fame will lower its win percentage to 59.5% to allow for Mike Leach. I think that's pretty cool, Mitch.
That's awesome. Yeah, Mike Leach, BYU graduate, get him into the Hall of Fame. That'd be great.
All right, let's take a break. On the other side, Kalani Sitake, who will be in EA College Football 26. He caught up with Mitch from Orlando. We'll hear that interview next.
It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for 3. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Here at the Big 12 Spring Business Meetings here in Florida, a place that I know that Kalani, it's close to heart for you with your family connections. Timberly here, being from your wife, being from this area, so I'm sure you're well versed in this part of the country, but it's all business here at the Big 12 Spring Business Meetings, and a big point of business has been the college football playoff, Kalani, and a lot of talk about the format. And, Brett Yormark's put it out there, 5+11 would be what he would like. What would you like, and what's the consensus among Big 12 coaches from the Phil you hear in these meetings today?
Well, I actually appreciate being here because we're able to talk and discuss all the options. I think for me it makes sense to go 5-11, but in order for me to know more about why that's the best fit, it's good to consider all these different options that everyone's talking about. And so the more I educate myself on it, the more I realize that the best way to do it is handle it and basically, handle it on the field and allow the teams to compete. And then I think that's going to get you the best group to compete for a championship. And so I agree with our commissioner, and I think we're all, like I said before, you've heard me say this before, that I'll follow Commissioner Yormark's leadership. I really believe in him. Love our partnership with the Big 12, and I've been really impressed with him and his staff, and just what they've been able to accomplish this week, and even the meetings with the head coaches has been amazing. So, really looking forward to this year, and Mitch, you've been here this whole time. It's kind of fun just being in the know. I've been listening to the conversations. It's pretty cool to be involved in the meetings.
What's the Big 12 going to do to maximize bids, though? Like, what's the messaging here in these meetings as to how to maximize the chance? Because last year with just the 12-team format, there was only one bid, and that was Arizona State.
Yeah, I think the key will be just compete and make sure that you get your best teams out there. But I think when you play the 9-game schedule, anything can happen. And looking at it's not like Arizona State struggled in the playoffs. They did a good job, representing. And I think we had some great competition in the Big 12. I think this format, though, allows the flexibility for every year and different types of, some conferences will have a better year, have more strength in the conference. And this one kind of, I think, covers all bases for you, and we'll get down to the best teams and allow them to compete for it.
I'd be remiss, Kalani, to not ask. I'll admit, just when this came out that the Big 12 spring business meetings were happening earlier this month, it wasn't on my radar. But Jake Retzloff, your starting quarterback, has been involved with a civil lawsuit alleged against him. What's his status currently with this BYU football team, as you're now 13 weeks away until kickoff coming up this weekend?
Yeah, I think our university made a statement, and at this point I can't add any additional comment to that due to federal and privacy laws, and so I'll just leave it at that. But just know that we're going to do our best to focus on the team culture and the team as a unit, and part of that is our culture is love and learn, and we're going to be focused on that and allowing our team to really focus on our platform and things that we can do and how we can help people.
How do you feel, though, and this is focusing on just the football side, my question here, how do you feel just about the rest of your quarterback unit? Talking about McKay Hillstead and just Bourget and everyone now, Bear Bachmeyer added to the mix as well, just from the football side.
Yeah, I think the best way to handle it is say that generally you've known me for a long time now that I want to get the best and the deepest team possible. And so that's at every position, and quarterback being one of them. So I think the goal is to get the best guys out there and get as many as we can and allow them to compete. And so I know sometimes people are worried about rooms getting crowded at all the different positions, but I believe that there's enough to go around. And I believe in competition where the cream will rise to the top, and we're going to see that happen in fall camp. We're seeing it already in summer, and leadership's taking form, and it's great when you have a bunch of leaders that are transitioning into our program and joining a great culture.
Who are your leaders right now?
Yeah, it's all the guys that you think would be. When you talk about like Chase Roberts and Jack Kelly and Glasker and Tanner Wall, and I know I'm going to forget a bunch of them, Wayne Lapuaho and Bruce Mitchell and Sonny Macassini, Parker Kingston. There's Carson Ryan's done a great job for us, Keanu Tanuvasa. And so that group's coming in, and you have mainstays like Logan Lutui and but the new guys coming along has gotten everybody excited. And you saw the new guys that came in the spring. So I think everyone's really excited about them. But I just want to remind everyone that we have a good group of men on the team already that we know can play. You look at the running back position with I think L.J. Martin had an amazing spring, and him and Sione Moore did a great job in spring, and then Pokai Haunga did great there. Chavesa Damuni. So we got some Enoch Nawahine. So that's a lot of guys that can run the ball and have run the ball for us. And so every position I feel really good about, and I felt like the coaches did a great job at reloading some of the positions that we needed, and even adding some bulk to it, some size.
I always think back to one of the early years in your tenure at BYU. I think it was 2017 Media Day. I think it was at the BYU Broadcasting Building. There was a question given to you about transfers, and you're just like, I'm going to let guys go. Like, they're part of the family, love them, but, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was just like, wherever they want to go, they can go. Yeah. Now, fast forward 8 years, it's different world of portal. There's a lot of movement for the players, but the portal windows are kind of tricky. How do you view the transfer portal windows, where they should land? Are you comfortable with the spring window? Do you want it just to be one in January? How do you feel about where portal should land in this calendar, which will probably change with the new changes?
I think it's what we have now, the portal, and I think that maybe the question is, why are guys leaving and why are they transferring? If it's for playing time or money or whatever it is, I think the key is for us to be transparent with each other. And we've had to say goodbye to some really good players that are going to have opportunities to go play other places. And I appreciate all of them and the hard work that they put into our program. But the game has allowed us so that they can move on and they can go try different places. But that doesn't mean that I can't appreciate what they did for our program. And so they're always, once a Cougar, always a Cougar, and so we'll always be home for them. But things keep progressing to what it is now, and we have to take advantage of the transfer portal. I think a few years ago we went really big in the transfer portal.
Coming into the Big 12.
Because we needed to get more depth, but that was probably too big of a move at the time. I thought we needed it though, and now I look back on it, we did need the amount of bodies for the depth, but we went through that transition, and I feel like we're in a really good spot now where we're taking pieces that actually fit rather than bringing guys in that we didn't even know that much before. Now most of the guys are here, guys that we've had relationships with already in the recruiting process.
Last couple things for you, Kalani. House versus NCAA, huge topic around here with the pending settlement. What's the challenges that you face as the head coach at BYU with that still up in the air, and then what can also be the benefits if it does actually get settled?
Well, the major problem is that it's not settled yet, and so it keeps getting delayed, things like that. And so we've had to make roster cuts and things like that because we thought the roster would be at 105, and so those are some difficult conversations that we had, and but we only know one way, and that's to do whatever we're told. And if that ends up not being the case, then we'll just have to adjust again. But
what's the number coaches are talking about? You guys think it might
be?
Well,
there's some that I talked to that haven't even done any cuts. So then there's others. I think there's a good amount, maybe half, that did what we did.
Yep.
And so I think you're going to have a little bit. I mean, we'll see. A lot of those guys that have gone on to other places, we might have some at BYU still, and we might just hold an open tryout. We don't know. Maybe you can bring some guys along so we can tackle them a little bit.
Well, Kalani, it's I know you're a busy guy. Like, I'll let you go, but appreciate the time here at the spring business meeting. It's always fun, and I know that football's around the corner, so it's a good sign. Another pillar in the off season.
Mitch, I appreciate you being here, man.
Good stuff, Mitch. This week has just been unbelievable, man. I'm glad you made it down there because there's been so much good content.
It's been a lot of fun, and just to see coaches and basketball, football. There were even some student athletes too. Some athletes. BYU volleyball had a player out here with that was the first time the Big 12 has done that, where they brought some some athletes. So it's just a cool event. It's one of the hidden gems on the Big 12 offseason calendar, and it's just really fun. And it's a little more loose, a little more just a kind of a informal setting to chat it up with some of the biggest names in college sports. So I always enjoy it out there.
Kalani had some good commentary too. I thought him supporting the 5 and 11. It seems pretty unanimous from administrators and coaches in the Big 12, which makes sense because they see it from we want to have meaningful football and you earn your way in, which I appreciate. I just hope that's what it is ultimately, Mitch. But good to hear Kalani on the record in terms of what he would prefer for an expanded playoff.
Yeah, I thought that was insightful to hear that from Kalani, because we've talked to Kalani a lot over the years, and he's typically one to either support BYU's stance or the Big 12 stance, but he said 5 and 11 would be great. He's also said in the past too, like, why not just do a big full-blown tournament and have conferences play conferences. And that's one thing that I think that I do get worried about, Matt, because if you go to the 16-team playoff, that's 5 plus 11 at-large bids. Do the Big Ten and SEC just start scheduling each other, and then they almost game the system with strength of schedule, and then the Big 12 and Big 12 and ACC, they need to start maybe collaborating more. I think the Big 12 and ACC need to say, hey, let's start scheduling more games. I know BYU's got Stanford this year, but that was from a previous agreement when Stanford was a Pac-12 team and BYU was an independent. But I think it's smart it'd be wise for the Big 12 and ACC to start collaborating on schedules, because that's one thing that's lacking in future non-conference schedules for the Big 12 is just their non-conference slate. They're not getting those marquee heavy hitters coming out of the gate, as we discussed with BYU. There's just not much on the bone that says, okay, no matter what, that's going to be a game that always just helps your resume if you can win it. And so, hopefully, that could be something that with having a deeper playoff, maybe it just creates more access so you naturally get in if you win all of your games. But we know, Matt, covering BYU enough, that these selection committees can always find something to either hose BYU or the leagues they've been in. So I'm a little bit skeptical, but I'm also okay with the concept of 5-11 because it could be a national tournament.
And on that point, I'd like to see the Big 12 maybe get a little creative with scheduling. Like, can there be an agreement where you don't set that matchup until the spring, because you have a sense of what teams are coming off good years, and that way you're not getting a BYU Stanford situation where this game would have been great at the peak of the David Shaw era,
right?
But it's a different Stanford team. So, and can you do that in conference play in some form or fashion to where you're generating some big games late? I don't know. Maybe that's too crazy, but they're up against it, against the Big Ten and the SEC. And to your point, I like that thought. How can you get creative to make sure that those two conferences aren't gaming the system to get more than the 8 that they were going to get in that AQ model? So
let's talk more about schedules. There were some interesting kick times and TV designations for BYU football coming up in the 2025 season. Let's hit on that next here on Cougar Sports Saturday.
This speech is my recital. I think it's very vital to rock around. That's right, on time. It's tricky. Here we go.
Welcome back in to Cougar Sports Saturday from Orlando, Florida. Signed to the Big 12 spring business meetings this week. Big thanks to the folks from the Big 12 for setting up some interviews with me. If you missed any of the kind of additional interviews, I got a few up on the Cougar Tracks podcast feed, and we'll have more too coming up in the coming weeks here on Cougar Sports Saturday. So big thanks to the Big 12 for accommodating some of the interviews from the guy all the way out in Salt Lake City. I think they were pretty impressed, man. I think they were like, man, I had one media member that told me BYU's just big time. Like, everything they do, they cover the people that cover BYU. It's a big time operation. I was like, well, we're a little bit of a small piece to that coverage with BYU. So we enjoy covering the Cougs, and that's why we do it here every single week here on Cougar Sports Saturday on KSL News Radio. And this week during the meetings in Orlando, there were some kickoff times announced, Matt, and You want to run those kick times down?
The opener against Portland State, 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus, which I think is a perfect time slot for that game. The following week, Stanford, 8:15 p.m. on ESPN. And then later in the month, when BYU goes to Colorado, which I also thought it was cool to see this game and this logo on an ESPN graphic, kind of highlighting some top games that are going to be on their networks in the first month of college football. That game will be at 8:15 in Boulder on ESPN. And then the first Friday night game of the year, it's the first game in October, too. BYU versus West Virginia, 8:30 p.m. on a Friday night. Yeah, you got a problem with any of these late kicks?
I don't. I think at least the Friday night West Virginia game, they just announced officially the time that we always know. Like usually it's always 8:15. That's what I hate about the Stanford and Colorado games is, yes, it's announced as 8:15, but that's code for it'll be starting at 8:20 and it'll kick off on ESPN News. And then you'll have to slide over and go back.
You even think of recording that and you turn on your recording, you're like, oh, hello, where's the first 7 minutes of the game?
You can just go online to watch ESPN and watch the full thing because you're going to probably miss the first few minutes, and that's why you got us to listen to, but here on KSL News Radio. But no, I liked it. It wasn't anything shocking. It was just interesting to see how late BYU West Virginia is going to be because that's 10:30 Eastern for the folks in Morgantown. That is going to be a huge storyline for them. They're going to be talking about that all week. Like I can already picture the questions to Rich Rodriguez. So, Coach, you ever been in a game where body clock 10:30? Like I just already know.
Coach, you ever been in a game where the fourth quarter the sun's coming up?
That's probably what it'll be, but it'll be energetic, hostile night. Crowds at Lavelle Edwards Stadium, and look, BYU's capturing an identity of being a tough home environment. It's always been that way, but now it's a elite night game environment. It's kind of gaining that image in the Big 12. Think about the BYU Kansas State game last year. There were so many people from the Kansas State media talking about how energetic and electric BYU's home crowd was for that big game, and I expect nothing less for probably not the Portland State game, but the theatrics around the stadium. They always, regardless of the opponent, always energize the fans, and I think it's an underrated piece to BYU's game day atmosphere right now, Matt, is that I feel like it's becoming a thing to go to BYU games, even if they're just an average team or they're really good. People are going to want to go because, you got Cosmo doing something crazy. You got this crazy Cougar tail, it's maple, it's whatever flavor it is that week. Like you just got all these little things that make it kind of influencer status, social media savvy, and just an experience that it kind of becomes a core memory for people. And then, by the way, you've got an entertaining football product too. But I just think BYU's done a really good job on that front.
I've grown to love these late games, especially in the months of September and October. The weather's going to be great. And I kind of like how you can just dedicate the night to college football. This is more of like a family perspective, but sometimes it's hard in the middle of the day to just say, see you later. Like I'm not going to pay any attention to my wife and kids. Where these late games just kind of allows you to enjoy your Saturday for what it is. At my house, we love to watch College Game Day in the morning, and then we go to Costco and do some chores, and then you got football at nighttime. I really like these late games. I know it's been a hot button topic for BYU fans over the years, but these early late games, I'm all for them, Mitch.
I'm with you. I'm fine with them too. And Nate Slack, our producer, he's the OG of tracking the night game stats for BYU, the Vampire Cougs. I think Nate was the one who honestly created the stat of tracking the Vampire Cougs behavior. But
it was me. Yeah, it was me.
It was you. And do you? I know I'm kind of going off cuff here, Nate, but do you have like the numbers by chance of what their record is? Because I still think it's a pretty good clip.
I don't. The last I remember it was about 30. It was 34-3, I believe, dating back to 2019, and that was for games that kicked off after 6 o'clock local time. So that's kind of what the clock that I put it at was 6 o'clock. But it was a huge discrepancy, and I think the crazy thing was not necessarily just the games after 6 o'clock, but as before 6 o'clock, there were 13 and 14 at one point. And so some people are like, oh, it's based off the opponent, but there were also some games against Northern Illinois that kicked off at earlier in the day, and they lost Northern Illinois. They lose to UMass, and so it's not always the case. But one of my favorite stats, people still pull it out. ESPN pulls it out, and I look at my wife and I say, hey, I came up with that.
you did come up with that stat, and it was a good one. And it's but yeah, it's really fun. It's going to be a fun season of BYU football. Cannot wait to kick it off here in 13 weeks since year 3 in the Big 12 Conference. And speaking of the Big 12 Conference, if you missed it, we're going to play our interview again with BYU AD Brian Santiago here at the Big 12 meetings here in Orlando. If you missed any part of the show, subscribe to the podcast on wherever your podcasts, really, and KSLSports.com. So let's take a time out. We'll get to Brian Santiago next here on Cougar Sports Saturday on KSL News Radio.